And now, our feature presentation.
Dude, when are you gonna clean the apartment? It's been your turn for like a month. Dude, are you seriously not gonna say anything? Look, man, I'm supposed to have my girl over tomorrow and it's fucking filthy in here and you never do any of the work. You never do the dishes and you're leaving your fucking fish everywhere. What the fuck? Like, you didn't clean up your feathers off of the carpet? I like, you know she doesn't like it when the apartment's messy and I want to have my girl over and just relax, but no. There's gotta be fucking fish and it smells like shit. It smells filthy and you're leaving your fucking muddy, webbed ass footprints here. What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, did you not have parents?
You are actually the first guest on Heavy Shell TV since the rebrand and since the addition to adding it to CanTV. So I'm really excited for this. So first off, if you want to go ahead and kind of like introduce yourself to the audience too.
I'm Veronica. You can check out my work at veronicatimble.com. I'm a stop-motion paper animator and also an arts administrator by trade. I'm in kind of like the infancy of my career now, but I love programming and arts administration and allowing arts to happen. But as an artist myself, I make stop-motion paper animations, usually with graphite or India ink, and sad comics sometimes, usually about failure.
I'm super interested in your work. I love the animations you sent me that we're going to show. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about your artistic journey. I saw that you went to SAIC. I recently graduated and got my master's in the film video department. So was around a lot of animators and got kind of involved in alternative animation while there as well. And I'm very interested in your relationship to comics as an avid comics reader. And I've, tried my hand at cartooning before too. And I was really kind of taken, just like the amount of work you have was really cool to me. So yeah, if you want to kind of talk to like your artistic journey, how you got to where you are.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Well, like most artists, I realized that I cared about art, in class, like doodling on assignments and stuff. I never really knew what was going on in class. I wasn't the best student, so I was able to build up a lot of experience kind of just like drawing and doodling and doing like sequential arts on like the back of assignments and stuff. It became kind of the only thing that I was good at. So naturally, I went to art school at SAIC where you went. And yeah, I think we were probably knocking around the same like indie animation or like indie video scene. It's very interesting being a experimental animator in a school setting because you'll be grouped in with a lot of people who are like big animation fans, but they're not necessarily experimental. And I think that the genre is divergent. Like it's so like being an experimental animator and being surrounded by industry animators or aspiring industry animators is definitely like a very like, for me, a very harrowing and like, it was very cynicism inspiring for reasons that I can get into later. But my whole life I've had a lot of time to build up a lot of cynicism, which maybe isn't the most attractive quality, but something that's really near and dear to my work and my practice. To me, the things that are the most real and the most material, the most tangible, the most true are things like gaps in conversations or really like poorly planned and barely inspired like small business projects that fail. or like I don't know, stuff like that feels very real to me. I feel like I'm kind of getting off track here, but with comics, I was always really inspired by the works of like Raymond Carver, who's a really great author who brought like kind of tragedy to like the working class and writes about that ugliness, or a lot of comic artists like Adrian Tomine, for instance, or Daniel Close, who are also all like comic artists who are very affected by that same like bleakness.
Let's go ahead and I'll have you go ahead and talk a little bit about the sun.
My idea with the sun was we live in an ecological state of peril right now, and no one's really talking about it. Everyone's talking about, like, maybe everyone has like a kind of fleeting awareness of like global warming or whatever, but there are a lot of like ecological problems that just fly completely under the radar because like nobody cares or nobody even knows about it. So in Chicago or around Chicago, there's a really vibrant volunteer-run and organized conservation scene. There are nature preserves around Chicago that you can't just like have a nature preserve and leave it alone. Like, people need to steward the nature preserve because we've brought so many invasive species to the state. Invasive plants, garden escapees, for instance, and invasive animals. We killed off all the wolves, so animals that are native, like deer, don't have any natural competition and will like overeat and like destroy ecosystems that way. Like, a lot of plants are severely endangered because no one's looking out for them or monitoring them. And it's really disturbing because, you know, without human intervention, these species would just go extinct. And volunteers do that intervention, but I've noticed that most of the volunteers are like, you know, they're older, they're like retirees and stuff. And a big reason for that is because, you know, people of the previous generation and the one before that lived in a world that wasn't decimated. They lived in an America that wasn't decimated by suburbs and subdivisions. The wilderness, the ecosystem was, you know, at least visible to them, or maybe even a fleeting part of their life, or when they'd go out to the woods to play or something, or like they'd be able to go out to the woods. But now, like, that's not the case. We've like plowed it all over with, you know, and built like crappy suburbs and subdivisions upon subdivisions where people can just like, you know, we've destroyed, it enrages me because we've destroyed, you know, millions of years of evolution and these like incredible balanced and mysterious ecosystems that we still don't fully understand. And we replaced them with like what? Like a really big house with like a yard that nobody uses and like a big fat basement where you can like go down and watch Hulu. Like, it's just like millions and millions of people watching Hulu in their basements instead of, you know, the very reason we exist. And I have a lot more to say about that, but basically I'm very active with, you know, like restoring ecosystems. These volunteers go out to nature preserves and do the physical restoration and make sure they're in good shape. And it means the world to me. But the sun was supposed to be about like how people born in, you know, like kids born in the modern day, it's about like how, I don't know, like if you have a terrible oppression, and you revolt against it, you'll know for your entire life, like, this isn't right. But then you have kids and they're born in that oppression and they just think like, this is the world. So the sun was supposed to be about like a kid, you know, like kids everywhere who are born in this like terrible world full of pavement, and heat reflecting off that pavement and barren beaches and just like the hot sun. Cause, you know, and like parking lots, for instance, they're so much hotter because it's not natural and the pavement absorbs heat and bounces it back at you. And it's unpleasant, but you know, a kid growing up in that will just be like, oh, it's, you know, it's warm in the parking lot. That's beautiful. That's God. Or like, oh, like I love being in the backseat of my mom's car looking out at the highway. Like that's God. So
that's a great explanation of it.
God watches over the world and everybody. When it's warm on your skin, that's when you know he's watching. He makes the plants grow. Bad things happen at night because that's when he's not watching. Get it? He has to watch some places more than others. Like the beach. Or the sidewalks. Or all the parking lots. So next time when you're in the car and you look outside, smile because God wants you to be very, very happy, actually.
Yeah, I remember getting, when I was in undergrad, getting really interested in alternative comics and coming across those collections in the library of the best American comics. And I'd read some Daniel Close stuff before, but that was my kind of first introduction to Adrian Tomei, and then went back and read all the optical nerve books I could find. So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But I can definitely tell where you're coming from with like that sort of cynicism influencing, but there's definitely like in both their work this like sense of like melancholy that I find really kind of like enjoyable and comforting in the medium of comics, where it feels so human and so real.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about your actual process as an animator? You mentioned graphite and India ink, and watching through your projects, like I love that. Yeah, you not only see your physical drawings, but your use of showing the actual physical paper as the frame itself, not just like zoomed in and cropped out, but making sure we know like this wasn't just, it might be assembled on a computer, but this was created in our like physical world, and you could look frame by frame if you wanted to at all these individual drawings. So yeah, talk to me about that kind of like process. What draws you to that? What do you think is like important of that kind of materiality of the analog in your work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm really attracted to paper animation. I think there's something just so beautiful about the material. The reason that I started paper animating was because I saw the work of the animator Joni Peppers, who has a beautiful short film about like a failing relationship, and part of it is paper animated. And I was just like fell in love with like this drop shadow. It's when you animate on paper and you put a pane of glass between your moving frames and the background, or the background can be moving, but you get like this drop shadow where the light from when you paper animate, you have like a camera stand. So a camera is like set up above your head, looking down onto whatever paper that you're moving around, and then two lights near the camera, and that light, it comes from above, so you get this like lovely drop shadow, and as you move your frames, the shadow also moves, and like something about that is just so entrancing to me. And yeah, I'm actually working on a new work right now, or I'm completing it, but it's probably like the most representative of that to date, where I've put in like a lot of really audible like paper noises, or I did a bunch of Foley where like I'm like slapping paper around, so you can hear like as like the character moves, and timing that to their movements, because like I don't know, like it's paper, like I think it's also very visually attractive, especially now in the time of like digital slop. Like I really want people to understand that Like, yeah, I drew these all on paper and layered them on top of each other, and that's all I did. But I don't know. I think there's the manual quality of drawing and coloring, manually coloring each frame is, I don't know. There's just something about it. Very, very material.
Yeah, there's something very like kind of magical with that connection to the work of you like putting your hand in it. And I really like what you said about the kind of being able to kind of cut through all the AI slop we see all the time. That's such a good way of putting it. It's such a good way of kind of like understanding it, of being able to like show people your hand in the process. And you mentioned Joni Peppers too, and you can definitely see that in her work and her kind of like emphasis on this kind of like handmade animation. I know she's even talked about kind of maybe not even wanting to like call herself like an animator specifically, because like, and you think of like an animator in terms of the kind of the industry of animation, like up all night doing stuff for, you know, Cartoon Network or Adult Swim or like the actual, I know she's talked a lot about the kind of animation like sweatshops in Korea, where so many of these like you know, Family Guy and everything is outsourced to these other countries that have like that are overworking these artists. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She had she went to grad school at FASC, so we've had like a lot of conversations about this. Actually, me and a few other people are working together on a movie right now, but it's a live action movie, so maybe not so relevant. But we've had a lot of time to talk about, like, yeah, I think that as an animator especially, there's something there. Like, there's something very important there. Like, that dichotomy between, like, I don't know. Yeah, that's another thing with, like, industry animators. Like, I feel like all animation now, or just, like, most, like, it's made to be, like, you're not supposed to, like, be able to tell how one makes it, or it's just, I don't know, it's just, everything feels so alienated from reality now that it's just like not even applicable, and it really frustrates me. And yeah, like especially with like industry animation, it's like it's not art, it's like entertainment. It's like turn your brain off, like turn your brain off and like let your eyes glaze over and these like crazy colors for you, and then you look around you and you're like, you see hundreds of kids with the same artistic background as you being like, oh my god, like, yes, I want to do that, like, like, yes, I want to like slave away for a job that doesn't pay me and busts me with like a robot as soon as it can, and then all of my work is to just like be sent to like literal slaves in other countries. I mean, it's, you know, it's the reason this stuff is outsourced is because people get paid so little. Like, it's just like, I don't know, it's a very ugly machine, this like. And it's a very ugly machine that turns out like garishly, like optimistic, like colorful slop for children. And I think there's something very morbid about that.
Yeah, I see. Well, because I was going to shift the conversation next to talk about your relationship with music. But before even doing that, I kind of want to say like you see that relationship in music too, like primarily when I'm not doing the show, like I do live visuals at raves, and there's such a distinction between the kind of like DIY rave scene in Chicago, which we both kind of have like connections to with artists, and then the kind of commercialization of raves and the relationship of the like companies that you know, like own Boiler Room. I don't mean to go off on like a like political tangent or anything, but the fact that yeah, it's like these kind of parties that like profiteer off of like genocide in Palestine and everything, and want us to kind of like look the other way when all this is going on. And like at the same time, you have this like very intricate underground going on in Chicago and all across the world. It's just so funny. It's like two different worlds coexisting at the same time.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. I have like, my friend is like a sound tech, and he works like these crazy hours like at this like, you know, professional venue, like slaving away from like literally like 9 a.m. to like 6 a.m. like crazy shifts. And sometimes when we hang out, he'll like get back and he'll be like, oh, like, yeah, I'm so exhausted. I was like doing sound for the Dora the Explorer party.
Oh my God, yeah, that's so funny.
like, like the Shrek hype Uber Eats award rave, and it's like what's what's happening in like the mainstream, like what yeah, it's really ugly. And yeah, the boiler room thing is very disturbing to me, but maybe these things are tangentially related in that there's a relief that at least there's an underground and people partying in good faith, and that there are some parties and animations that are still just about being parties or animations and not about some crazy military industrial complex.
If you want to go ahead and introduce Train Movie to the viewers.
Oh yes, that's kind of just like a self-indulgent little like loop I made. This film festival, like Malta, will they'll if you like send them an animation loop, they'll air it in between screenings. So I was like, oh, I'll just like throw it together, and that's just what Train Movie is. I mean, I think it's somewhat self-explanatory in the sense where like, you know, I don't know, we live in like a lonely, like self-indulgent world, or like, I don't know. There was like a year of my life where like I was working this like super dead end job, and I didn't go to school because like I couldn't afford to, so I had to like reapply for like more financial aid and stuff, and it was just like a whole nightmare. And then all my friends, you know, they were like going off to college, and they were still living in that world where like everything's for you, like. If you're like you stay in school, you're like you go from like elementary, high school, and then you go straight to college. It's like, oh, like there's always going to be someone looking out for me. Like, oh, like all these systems are built for me. Like I'm special. But you know, I was kind of dropped into the real world, and I was working a really really terrible job in like the quote unquote experience industry that was like, you know, much like industrial, or much like with for-profit animation, like garishly cartoonish, made to be enjoyed, like but like also like with like these like glaring like moral deficiencies. And like, I don't know, I just watched a lot of people spend a lot of money on a lot of really cartoonishly garish entertainment. And I take the train home every day and get really emo about it. So
Totally. I noticed in one of the animations you had posted to Instagram, you had like Venetian snares in the background, and so that's kind of why I wanted to bring up music and kind of talk about, because I feel like there's such a like there's always been a connection obviously between music and animation, going back to even like you think about Looney Tunes being spelled like tunes, like a song, because it's all just like played out with this classical music in the background. And being an artist in Chicago, I kind of wanted to talk about your relationship with electronic music and breakcore, and how you kind of see these musical subgenres influencing your work, or you kind of coexisting in the same realm.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked, actually. Because yes, of course I love music. It's tangential, but I think it's so interesting that as animals, we have like, that humans have like, are able to receive music and communicate with it. And I wonder what like the evolutionary origin of that is, but that's not necessarily related to my work. Yes, I love music, and I'm actually working on a music video right now, which is very opportune. It feels very serendipitous that you mention it. I recently came to the realization that for many years in my career or like my practice, I felt very, very insular and very, very trapped in like my own head and my own practice in my own studio. My work was very self-absorbed and not very collaborative. And yeah, like I was timing some animations to music. Like that one animation is on like a Venetian snare song, but it's not like I was like working with, Venetian snares or anything. But I'm really excited to finally be making music videos. I'm making one for my friend Serpulene. He does these really cool kind of like abstract, like ambient, like semi-ironic, like bit crushed, beats on SoundCloud. And he's also a visual artist as well. And it's just really exciting to be like working together with someone to be like in a very active process, like talking back and forth with somebody, with a musician, instead of just kind of like admiring their work and scavenging it after. And it's nice to marry those two interests of mine too. Like, yeah, we both knock around like the Chicago underground rave scene or whatever. But I'm glad that I can like start bringing animation to music or bring visuals to music. It's really exciting, and it was a really refreshing reminder to me that we're all like artists and kind of united by the same goal, which is to see the world like differently, to be like different ways of seeing than what's normal, alternative ways of life to like finance jobs and stuff.
Absolutely. And you'll have to send me the music video when it's done. If you, we can totally play it on the show. So I want, more kind of music videos on the show. I feel like that's something that, we still have music videos online on YouTube and stuff, but like the days of music videos on TV have, been gone for a couple decades now, it feels like. So trying to bring it back on public access TV. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for speaking with me. And is there anything, obviously we'll plug your website and everything, but is there anything you got coming up? I know you mentioned you're working on a music video and like a live action film coming up.
Oh yeah. So yes, I'm working on a music video with the artist I mentioned, Serpulene, and I'm not sure, that might be done by maybe the end of the year, maybe a little bit earlier. But in the short term, a collective I'm in, whose output is a little bit different from my work. It's like everyone's like focused on like e-cinema and like what it means to be like an anime girl, and like what it means to be alive in like the digital like internet age and have yourself like refracted across the internet and stuff.
All right. Well, I really appreciated this, and thank you so much for being on the interview.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.